And everyone, my name is Kate. I am here from the Worcester Talking Book Library today, as I'm sure you're all aware. Today we're just going to be quickly going over some of the materials that we carry, who is qualified to use our services, and then how someone can go about applying if they are qualified and interested. So, since it's a fairly small group, if you have questions throughout, definitely feel free to just raise a hand. But I will leave time at the end as well if anyone has specific questions or anything in particular they'd like to ask at the end. So I'm ready to get started.
All right.
So the Talking Book Library is a free resource for people who are blind or print disabled. So basically what that means is anyone who is unable to read a standard book, either due to a visual impairment, but also a physical disability or reading disability. So this could be someone with neuropathy in their hands that makes it difficult to hold a book. It can be someone with a reading disability like dyslexia, where it's challenging to read that standard font. So the resources we provide are primarily large type books, Braille materials, and audio materials as well. There are also some assistive devices that we are in the process of cataloging. So once those are all complete, we'll actually be able to send out magnifiers and other devices like that in the mail so that people can use them from their homes, try them out, see how that would work for them. So basically we have a physical space in the Worcester Public Library, but we primarily will send things through the mail. So for people in Ayer, Shirley, Lunenburg, that's probably how they would access these materials. So for large type, the book would go into an envelope like this, and there's no postage required. So this can just go directly into the mail. There will be a cardboard slip with their address, the patron's address on the front, and ours on the back. So whenever they're finished with it, they can just pop it back in the mail. No postage. There are also no late fees since it is by mail, so that's a little bit different from your standard library. We do ask that people have them back in about 4 weeks, but if people need it longer, we're not too picky. We just try to make sure things are coming back to us. We also have a variety of children's materials, which I did bring with me today. So this would be an example of a large type children's book, which, as you can see, is actually just the normal book. Most children's books actually are already in large type. And then I also have some Braille materials. So this is a really important resource, not only for a child who's visually impaired, but if a caretaker is visually impaired and wants to read along with their child, this is a really great way to kind of have that bonding experience, even if the person may not be able to read the print themselves. And then lastly, I have this device here, which is a talking book machine. So that is in our name. We send these machines out to people. They don't need to purchase them. Everything is already included and free through our program. So we send these out, and then these are digital cartridges that contain the entire book on here. So there's no flipping tapes. This cartridge will just arrive in the mail.
The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton, DB 70900.
So basically, because it's all on a cartridge, once it's popped in, it will start playing automatically. Each of these buttons will tell you what it's doing when you press it.
Volume up.
And then if somebody takes this out and say goes to bed or starts another book, once they put it back in, it will start at the point that they left off in the book. So that's a really important resource, especially if people are used to either tapes or CDs for audiobooks. This is a little bit more high tech, which is important. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention about audio materials as well, if someone is a little bit more tech savvy and is comfortable using either a tablet, an iPhone, even on their laptop, they can actually download these books without having to use this machine, without having to get these sent in the mail. There's a service called BARD. It stands for Braille and Audio Reading Download, and patrons can just download things automatically to their phone, to their tablets. They don't need to really deal with us at all if they don't want to, which is helpful, especially for younger users or people who feel more comfortable. As our population gets more tech savvy, it's definitely going to be the way of the future for these machines. So that's also important to note. Are there any questions at this point? Yes.
And just one about the BARD.
Mhm.
How typically would that happen? Would they use their current library card to go into, how does the BARD work? Like if we wanted to download something?
So once someone is a member of our library, so I'm going to go over the application in a bit. Once someone has applied, their application has been processed, it's been determined that they're qualified to use the service, then they basically will have access to that app. They'll get a login
Oh,
to
okay.
use. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So I guess that's a good segue into going over the application process. So basically, I have applications actually with me and I forgot to put them on the table. The application is going to ask for people's reading preferences, and it's going to ask for the basis that they qualify for this service. So if they are visually impaired, if they have a reading disability, that would be indicated on the application. There's also a signature portion. So this needs to be signed by either anyone here actually could sign it, a librarian, a social worker, a doctor, a nurse, someone who's familiar enough with our program to know who's qualified and is also familiar with the individual applying to know that they are in fact qualified. So that's this authorization form here. Once this entire form is filled out, again, no postage required. This just needs to go into one of these blue envelopes. Takes about a week or so to process, and then that person, if they are qualified, they will become a patron. These machines don't need to be sent back to us at any point also. That's also a frequent question that we get. Once someone has this, they can keep it as long as they need it, so that there's no sending it back and then receiving it back at all.
Yeah, because they qualify.
Correct. We also have institutional accounts. So this might be an option if either your library or school maybe has multiple people in mind for this service and isn't sure if they're going to want the service directly to their home. Especially for a school, if you wanted to kind of have your own small collection of either talking books, Braille, large type, you could have that set up in your school. So I have applications for institutions as well today. And it's a similar process. Obviously, there's no signature for any one particular person, but we would still just need to know, for example, a preschool is probably going to want a certain age range, and you can indicate that on here. Any other questions?
For the institute, so a teacher could sign off it, or the librarian at the school could sign
So
off
if
the
it's
institution one?
Yeah, so if it's a school, the principal
Oh,
or another
okay.
administrator would
Okay.
just need to make that final signature.
Okay.
It's just a little bit different because again, you're not authorizing
Yeah.
a specific person. Yes.
Is this available only to people in Worcester County?
So actually, this is a nationwide program. It's part of the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled. And every state has a talking book library of some kind. In Massachusetts, we collaborate with Perkins, so the two of us are the only two services for all library services for the blind.
I just
Yes.
have a question. So if we had an institution card and we had a collection, would we need to be sure the person taking it out is someone who would qualify, or I used to teach integrated preschool, and there's a lot of value of a typically developing child understanding what a Braille book is. So
Mhm.
could anyone check it out if we had an institutional collection?
So once it becomes an institutional collection, it's kind of up to the institution to decide how those materials are utilized. Like I said, on this application, it does just ask for a signature to confirm that someone is
Right.
qualified, that you would be providing the services to. Obviously, the intent is to provide service
Right.
for people with disabilities, but especially for younger people, there may not be a formal diagnosis. So it's just important that the intent is always to keep this as a service for people
So
with
we
disability.
need, right?
Yes, exactly. Any other questions? right, well, thank you all. I'm gonna keep some of these materials up here. I also brought a bunch of pens and swag with me as well, so if anyone would like some materials, definitely feel free to stop by. Like I said, I have applications up here as well, so if anyone would like some, definitely feel free to come up.
Kate, I have just a follow-up question about how the Talking Book Library is funded. I mean, I know you receive money out of from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners line every
Yes.
year. Is that where most of the funding comes from? Do you get other funding from, a national source, or is it pretty much all coming from the state?
Yeah, so the majority is coming from, the MBLC, but then these materials here are actually property of the Library of Congress.
Oh.
So you'll notice if you look closely, there is a seal on here. So the NLS does provide these materials. These are sent to us automatically. Every day we receive new materials. They are sent out to every Talking Book Library, So these materials are federally funded. There's also the state component for just, keeping our lights on. And then to add an extra layer of confusion, I'm technically a city employee in the city of Worcester. So there is kind of multiple pools where things are coming from and being funded.
And then I have another question, just about the collections themselves. So when you're receiving new materials, are you getting like the latest bestsellers
Yes.
at the same time, like they're hitting the shelves in the library or in a bookstore and that
Yes.
sort of thing? Okay.
Yep, so I tried to bring somewhat recent arrivals there. I guess these aren't super, super recent, but yeah, we are keeping current with materials, making sure that we have the latest titles that people are going to be asking for. Again, with the audio, it is a little bit challenging just because we really don't do our own collection development, so we just have to wait for things to come in. With the large type, it's a little bit different. Those we do order ourselves.
So do people place a hold for a specific title and wait in line, or?
It's similar. I guess the main difference is it's not like with a library where you would say like, oh, I'm whatever number in line.
Yes.
We can put a reserve on an item and it's on reserve in that person's account. Basically, most people for large type, they usually receive about 2 books a month, sometimes more frequently if they're reading them more frequently, but usually each shipment is gonna have 2 books in it. And if they have a reserve list with say 30, 40 titles, it's gonna keep pulling from that list.
Okay.
Because most of the time people have a pretty lengthy list of interests that they give us. That brings up a good point. Some people choose to have their account set up so that they have a computer selecting what they receive each month. So in that case, the computer would just select, if they tell us they like mysteries and romance, the computer is going to automatically choose those for them every time they return items. Some people want to select specific titles. So if they look at the New York Times bestseller list and they decide they want specific titles, they can have their account set up for only the specific things that they request. We also send out, every other month we send out a list of our newest arrivals. It's called either Talking Book Topics or the Large Type Supplement. So they will receive that and they'll be able to select from that list. They can get it in audio form or in large type, and they can select specific titles that are new. We also receive multiple of many titles, so it's typically a shorter wait than the public libraries would be. Yes.
Just to clarify something, let's say someone comes in, we don't know them at all. They say, I have dyslexia and I want to use this service. Can we sign off on that? Or, what is the,
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. If you're not familiar enough to make that call, I would say to maybe speak to them about talking to a doctor. For reading disability, again, they continue to add layers. For reading disabilities specifically, the signature has to come from a doctor.
Okay.
For visual impairments and physical disabilities, that's when that broader category, so librarians, teachers, social workers. So basically, for reading disabilities specifically, there does need to be a medical professional making that call. Yes, yes,
Just quickly, the applications, are those available on your site?
they
Your
are.
website, so if someone came in, if we didn't have them, we could download one for them?
Yes, absolutely. It is in PDF form. I brought a bunch with me today and I'll probably just leave you all with multiple so you're able to have them on hand. But yes, you can also download them from our website.
Sort of curious about, like, circulation in terms of like, are the large type books, is that kind of the biggest part of the collection, the part that gets the most use, or?
The
is it
talking
really the
books,
talking book?
yeah, the
Yeah.
talking books, we definitely have a larger collection.
Mhm.
The large type are popular, but I think because a lot of public libraries also carry them,
Yeah.
a lot of people are using multiple sources to have access to them.
Gotcha.
So the talking books are primarily what most of our collection is.
How many machines do you have out there, do you think?
I have no idea.
Yeah, right?
It's a lot. I don't have a number, but
But do you know how many active patrons?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. I'm sure that number is accessible and I could find it out for you if you had.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That would be good to know though. I should probably look that up.
Well, it's popular. Yeah. I remember my 90-year-old grandmother, she had like eye degeneration or something.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, every time I visited, she had like a machine like that.
Mhm.
So I just thought it was from probably the regular library, but maybe it was something more like, she was from Rhode Island.
Okay, yep.
And I don't think, I think they just came in the mail. And
Yeah,
she just
so-
listened to whatever she had. And they were huge buttons. And so she kind of felt them. And she was legally blind.
Mhm.
So she knew where the play and the stop was and stuff, so.
Yeah, no, these are designed with accessibility in mind, so they are pretty easy to use if someone is unable to see where the buttons are. They also have, in Braille, they have the markers there as well. Not all of our patrons can read Braille, but it is helpful to have that on there. All right. Thank you all so much for coming in today. Like I said, I'm going to stick around for a little while for questions, for pens and highlighters and things. So definitely feel free to stop by with any other specific questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.